and welcome to GMBN Tech. Today is an Ask show where if you've used hashtag Ask GMBN Tech down in the comments of any of our videos, then we can pick it up on a show like this and try and answer it for you. So my first question is from Juan Herrero, who says, Ask GMBN Tech, is oval chainring compatible with high pivot idler pulley bikes? Good question, because obviously with an oval chainring, it's not circular, there's a different shape to it, and usually oval chain rings on a normal low pivot bike will have a chain that is fed in kind of horizontally, I would say. Whereas if you have a high pivot bike that has perhaps an idler at the top, or maybe this way while you're looking at the camera, the chain is sort of coming down at an angle. So this might cause some issues in how your oval chainring picks it up, as it's designed to be picked up from the bigger side, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you want the bigger side to correspond to the most powerful bit of your pedal stroke. And the confusing thing is thinking about how that actually translates to it driving the chain. And you want, when the chain joins the chainring, those teeth do the majority of the driving. So then you want that big bit of the chainring to match up with the input point of the chain when you've got the most power of your pedals.
Right, makes sense.
So then when you move the chain around,
yeah,
you have to move the chainring.
Which is great if you've got a direct mount, for example, that can incrementally move and try and adjust that sort of insertion of the chain angle, I would say. But if you've got a 4-bolt like this, then that's going to be terrible. Or a 3-bolt, for example, you're going to be rotating it too much in order to try and pick that up. So I guess the answer is yes, it's possible to run one with a high pivot bike. Consult your sort of chain guys who are usually really nerdy about this sort of thing. And they do offer, so if you were to speak to Absolute Black, for example, you can talk to them directly and say, what is your advice? What angle do I need? And they'll probably be super nerdy about it and tell you exactly what you need. So that is my advice. Yeah,
there was one you showed me the other day, the far side chainring, and they talk about their angle of rotation is 69 degrees that it moves round. So that's, if you think roughly it's from here to sort of like that, it's a bit less than 90. Like an idler chain coming in. So
they made a high pivot specific oval chainring, but I don't think they're in production anymore as a company, but you might still be able to find their chainrings if you want to look that up.
Next question is from @Fraggle, who says, what is the best upgrade for a mountain bike? I mean, what a huge question. It depends on how good your, where your mountain bike is right now.
Got?
Yeah, but the things that spring to mind, firstly, if you do have a straight post and you're kind of looking to boost that technical riding, descending, maybe a dropper post, it's a natural thing to look at. Maybe hydraulic brakes, if you've got cable discs or something.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I've always said table discs. I've always said that rotor upgrades are better than upgrading your brakes sometimes. Just upping the size of rotors can make a massive difference to performance and braking power.
My final answer, though, having phoned a friend, done 50-50, all of that, my final answer, though, is tyres, I think, just because
That's your favourite?
Yeah, I think it's that even if your tyres are kind of good, just going to new tyres with sharp, clean edges is the best. And then you can, with tyres these days, you can tailor them so specifically to the type of riding you're doing. Tread, sidewall, compound, volume, you can dial into an all-round tyre or really specific to your terrain. It's not, obviously they're not the cheapest thing, but it's more affordable than maybe a new set of brakes or a drivetrain or something. You're looking at maybe, there's some on sale,
that's true.
For me, I think that's the best possible upgrade. Maybe start off thinking about, do I need a really aggressive or faster rolling tyre? Then look at the compound arm, that would work. Then look at your sidewalls and go from there.
Okay, my third question from Simon, who says, I got a Cube Reaction, it's a 1x12 Shimano Dior, and I want to change the front chainring, which currently has a 32 tooth, for an oval chainring with 12% 34 tooth. So we're back on the oval rings here. I assume I need the clearance for a 36 tooth. Just to cut your question short, yes, you're right, you would need clearance for a 36 tooth. So for anyone out there, the oval chainring has got this kind of squished part. So a 34 oval chainring would effectively be like a 32 in the small squished part. And that means that it would be squished out to like a 36 effectively on the bigger part. So if we were to draw a circle around this big part, it would effectively be a 36 tooth. So you would need clearance. I don't know if that cube reaction would take that. I did a bit of digging. I couldn't find it in the manual what the maximum tooth is. Most of them seem to come with a 32 tooth. However, yeah, you would need clearance for a 36. However, there's some way of working out, isn't there? And luckily, I've brought a guy who's got a master's degree in Oxford who might be able to help us out on some specifics if you can't find out what your max chainring is in a manual.
Yeah, I did try and work it out. It's actually quite annoyingly difficult to sort this out. Like I basically, knowing the pitch of a chain, right, it's 12.7 mil, like or half an inch, the difference between pins, and then you think, well, that's sort of the difference between the chainring teeth in the centre where the chain will sit. You can put this all into a model, try and work out an end-sided polygon that will have 34 or 36, for a round ring, 36 sides. You plug that into, like, if each step is 12 and a bit mil, it can tell you how big your polygon will be, and then you can work out the diameter. But then, because the teeth are slightly further apart than where the centre of the chainring sit, and it's obviously overlies with a 12% eccentricity, so it's like stretched out. I spent a couple of hours on this because I'm actually obviously quite boring, and like, it is really annoying. There is a way, I think, that if you can measure between the centre of your BB spindle and here, and it's about 78 mil, and also you can look on chainring manufacturers' websites, and they say that the outer diameter of their rings was 152.2 mil for a 36. So I did cheat a little bit with that, but then you add a little bit because of the overlays. Please let me know in the comments, because I got stuck with this, kind of, and he's looking at the 7.72 mil roller diameter of a T-type chain, and you're estimating the teeth height. Basically, obviously, I wouldn't cut it too fine, because you might have a little bit of frame flex as well, or you just have like dirt building up. You don't want to like wear away your paint. I think just get a 32 oval ring and then learn to pedal a bit faster. Or make sure there's like 78, 80 mil clearance, and you'll be okay, and do some geometry. I
mean, 36 is a big tooth anyway. Like, that is huge. Not many people are going up that big, so I feel like you could just come down the block on the cassette a bit. Unless you're pedaling downhill on tarmac or gravel, then you shouldn't really be maxing that out anyway.
I ran a 36 last year and it was too big. I was bit off more than I could chew.
And you're a beast as well, as we know.
As we know. Yeah, no one would possibly want a bigger guitar.
No, exactly. Okay, I've got a question here from Hannah Bruni. Don't know if you're related to Luke, but can you mix Shimano and SRAM for a mountain bike if you want to use SRAM axis electric shifting, but keep your Shimano chain, cassette, and crank? Is this possible if I do a simple swap? I'm not sure if you're referring to old axis as in AXS, or if you're talking about axis as in the new T-type electronic Eagle transmission, which is potentially a little bit more tricky. So let me obviously put out a disclaimer that if you try and swap things and pair things that aren't as the manufacturer intended, so SRAM do state that all of its axis stuff, be that old or new, should only work with other SRAM axis or Eagle type stuff. The old axis will work with normal Eagle cassettes, for example. It doesn't have to be axis specific, but the T-type does have to be axis specific. And if you deviate from what they say, then it may not work. It may work, but maybe it's not perfect shifting. Maybe they pick up at different points. The chain gets picked up at different points in the cassette, and it might be louder or just more annoying. But basically, you probably can. Certainly the old AXS, older stuff, the derailleur is probably more likely to work with a Shimano cassette and chain. And if you're upgrading anyway, then why not try the axis derailleur, a new derailleur, with your Shimano cassette and the chainring, and see how it goes. And if it's terrible, it's going to wear out anyway. So if it's not that great, then you're going to obviously upgrade soon when it wears out, so you might as well upgrade then too.
Final question for today is from Omar, who says, hashtag Ask GMBN Tech, can I make a reverse but put a bigger fork on to compensate for the smaller wheel? What impacts would that have on a hardtail?
Why?
I mean, you can. It worked great for Blake. We've seen, you know.
It worked great for him.
It worked
Did he
great
love
for Blake. And he didn't even adjust the fork axle's crown. But it doesn't mean that you should do this. I think there's a few things that come out of this. You know, even if you adjust the axle to crown of your fork by exactly the same amount as like the vertical change that you have with a smaller wheel. So effectively the head tube stays in the same place, and you do it by the sine of the head angle and get a bit of trig and get that up, and that head angle will be the same, but it does change other aspects of it, like the trail, because even if that's the same, if you move the wheel axle down, it like cuts off the bottom of that triangle you draw to do the trail, so it actually reduces the trail. So you could have a bike that was less nimble. So, yeah, basically there's lots of different impacts, and I don't approve of any of them.
I think we should end it on that. Well, thank you very much for your questions. And if you have any burning things that we can poo-poo in the show like this.
It's a good question because it brought out loads of stuff I didn't expect.
Yeah, it brought a lot out of you. If you could leave hashtag Ask GMBN Tech down in the comments right now and let us know your burning question, we'll try and answer it.